Hey guys, what's going on? Jeb here, and in today's video, we're going to be doing a little bit more short-term technical analysis on Bitcoin, because in the last couple of days, I've been discussing this consolidation pattern that Bitcoin has been finding itself in, and in yesterday's video, I told you guys that I expected we would probably see a bullish breakout from this consolidation pattern sometime in the next 48 hours or so, and lo and behold, that's exactly what we've seen. We've seen that Bitcoin has gone ahead and completed this consolidation pattern, and considering it moved into this consolidation pattern in a bullish way and then started trading sideways, we expected that Bitcoin would then likewise break bullish as well, because as we've said, this right here would be a continuation pattern, a consolidation pattern, a symmetrical triangle pattern, but most importantly, of course, a continuation pattern. Bitcoin has broken bullish, but it hasn't broken very bullish. And the fact that Bitcoin has not broken very bullish at all is actually a very strong indicator of the strength of the bulls and the bears in this market, and also gives us an idea of where Bitcoin's priorities lie as to what constitutes a major and important level of resistance and a major and important level of support. We're going to be discussing all of that and more in today's video, guys. I think we have a good one lined up for today. We're going to be doing some short-term to moderately longer-term technical analysis in today's video. So if you guys enjoyed today's video, definitely consider dropping a like and hitting that subscribe button. Also, make sure you smash that notification bell so you'll be notified every time a new video goes out. But without much further ado, let's go ahead and get right into it. Bitcoin is currently trading around $4,020 on Coinbase anyways, trading a little over $4,100 on Bitfinex, but of course we know Bitfinex's price is skewed. The market is almost exactly the same, but the price is skewed a little bit. But over here on Coinbase, Bitcoin has broken above that level of $4,000. We traded around here in this consolidation for a little while, and we did about 60 to 70% of the way through this consolidation pattern decide to break bullish, and that's exactly what Bitcoin has done, is broken bullish. If we look here, though, something interesting happened during the duration of this consolidation pattern. Bitcoin's volume didn't really drop all that much during this consolidation pattern. It didn't exactly go up either, but it kind of just stayed the same. It's very interesting. We saw very small, very low volume and kind of not corollary volatility with that over here back on the 16th and 17th of March, but interestingly enough, we have traded through it and broken bullish. Anyway, Bitcoin has broken bullish, and as I talked about in yesterday's video, a lot of times you can tell just about how big a bullish breakout or a bearish breakout will be based on the amount of volatility and the amount of tension in the market moving up towards that breakout. And I don't know if I mentioned this in yesterday's video, but the fact that we had a very large consolidation pattern here, a continuation pattern here, that symmetrical triangle here, as opposed to a relatively small flagpole right here, that doesn't exactly speak dividends as to us seeing a major bullish breakout. It doesn't exactly predict a gigantic bullish breakout. If we were to see something like, this is about a 4% move right here, this flagpole. If we were to see like a 20% flagpole, and then we were to see like a tiny little pennant right here, then this would be indicative of a much larger bullish breakout. But because the proportion of the size of the flagpole to the size of the consolidation pattern is so skewed in favor of the flagpole being smaller, that doesn't exactly leave us a lot of room for a major bullish breakout. And that does make sense, because Bitcoin breaking bullish out here, it really can't go too far without hitting this uptrend of resistance right here. If Bitcoin hits that, it was probably going to get resistance at it. And I talked about in yesterday's video with the idea of using the flagpole to give us a price projection of how far Bitcoin will break out. It predicted Bitcoin coming up here to around $4,120 or so. But of course, that can be stopped based on the factors that I've explained here. The flagpole, the projection method that I just showed you, the price prediction method here, this is not my favorite method of determining how far a Bitcoin breakout will move, nor for any other market. I like to look at levels of support and resistance and then maybe use that as kind of a general guide. But one thing that we've seen Bitcoin do here is that it broke out, and then very quickly it kind of turned around. As you can see here, if we look on the minute chart at the time of recording this, Bitcoin fell off a cliff pretty hard here after it ran up to around $4,050, and it fell pretty hard all the way down here to around $4,000 in the span of about an hour. Not a very good thing to see coming out of Bitcoin. We can see in two candlesticks right there, this has happened very recently. But Bitcoin has gotten resistance up here. And in fact, if you were to go into the 5-minute chart or so, we can see that Bitcoin did kind of enter a smaller consolidation pattern right here, right there. This is on the 5-minute chart, so this is kind of shorter term technical analysis. But what we see here is also very interesting. I normally don't do TA on the 5-minute chart, but I think this is important. Bitcoin broke bullish out here and then broke bearish. And that is really important, because I think that's probably what's going to happen to Bitcoin again here pretty soon, because Bitcoin has shown something to us in the course of this breakout here over the last couple of hours, the last couple of days. It's given us some very important information as to the strength of the bulls and the bears. And if you guys are in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, or if you've even looked at the videos in the Cryptocurrency Technical Analysis Academy, you're going to see that there's two videos in that course, gauging the strength of the bulls and the bears and gauging the strength of support and resistance. And those two concepts are very important, because you have to understand how strong the bulls are, and how strong the bears are, so that you can then determine if the bulls can break resistance or if the bears can break support. It's really an important concept, one that I talk about a lot in the course because I'm very fond of it. I think it is very important, and it really goes to show that right here, because what we've seen in Bitcoin is that we've seen weakness from the bulls. We've seen Bitcoin move into a consolidation pattern right here, bounce around in this consolidation pattern for a couple of days, and not been able to make a major breakout. Bitcoin did not break very bullish here at all. And as I talked about in a couple videos ago, whenever you see Bitcoin break out of a consolidation pattern, the couple of candlesticks that follow that breakout are tell-all. They tell you everything about the strength of the bulls and the bears. If you want to learn how strong the bulls are or how strong the bears are, wait for the breakout of a consolidation pattern and you will be clairvoyantly aware of just how strong they are. And as we've seen here, Bitcoin broke bullish here. It broke out of this consolidation pattern and we did not see a lot of bullish price action. In fact, Bitcoin only rallied probably about 1% or so. Bitcoin moved about 1% here after breaking bullish out of this consolidation pattern that has been in the making for the last 4 or 5 days. And that does not speak well of the bulls. That actually shows a lot of bearishness at the moment. That shows a lot of weakness coming from the bulls. And if you guys remember to about a week ago, I was talking about this breakout over here where Bitcoin broke out. It was in this kind of consolidation pattern right here. We saw that Bitcoin was trading around in here, getting very, very tight, came all the way to the climax of this consolidation pattern, broke out, and we only saw about a 4% move. It wasn't anything major. And I mentioned this same concept back then. I talked about how when you see a breakout, that gives you a good opportunity to understand who's more powerful, the bears and the bulls or the bears, and also, depending on which one's more powerful, how strong is the faction that broke out, which the bulls were in this case. The bulls broke out in this case, and we only moved about 4.5% or so. Bitcoin did not move very far in this case. And I mentioned that because that is a strength, that is a sign of weakness coming from the bulls. Now, we've seen another breakout, and it hasn't been even, it's been a lot worse. Bitcoin has had like a 1% move here from a similarly sized consolidation pattern, mind you. This is about a 5-day consolidation pattern. This one right over here, it's a little bit of a weird one because these are trend lines that were already in effect, but this one's about a 5-day consolidation pattern as well. Bitcoin not breaking more bullish here is very bearish for the market, actually. Just because you see a bullish breakout is not necessarily a sign of bullish strength. You guys have to keep that in mind. Now, don't get me wrong. I want to be very clear here and cover all my bases. There is a chance here that this rally isn't done. I want to make that very clear because sometimes that is the case. Sometimes it looks like a market has just kind of broken out and it's been a crappy breakout, and then maybe 12 hours later, the actual breakout comes and then we move up here to like $4,200 or something. That's a possibility, so don't go and draw all of your conclusions just yet. Give it another day or two to see what happens here. But at the time being, assuming that Bitcoin trades sideways or trades slightly downwards and doesn't move to the upside, this is actually a bad sign. And I'll show you an example of why this is a bad sign. Let's go back on the chart here a little while ago in Bitcoin's history. A couple times Bitcoin broke bullish out of consolidation pattern right over here. This one and this one right here. We saw Bitcoin break bullish and then traded sideways for a few days and broke bearish. We saw Bitcoin trade sideways for a few days, broke bullish, and then broke bearish. And the reason for that was because Bitcoin did not have the strength that the bulls needed to maintain the rally that they had gone on when they actually broke bullish here. The bears took over because the bears were actually the ones that were more powerful. And right now I'm concerned that a similar thing will be happening to Bitcoin. Bitcoin will fall over here and it will probably move down towards this uptrend of support. Now, don't get me wrong, there's a good chance that this uptrend of support does catch us, but I do see that Bitcoin is going to be slightly more bearish over the next couple of days, assuming that scenario that I told you about the delayed onset breakout here. Assuming that this doesn't happen, I do see more bearishness coming for Bitcoin on the short term and moving out to the slightly longer terms, because I think this is indicative of a trend that's been going on for the last couple of weeks here, where Bitcoin has been losing bullish momentum. I mean, Bitcoin's been moving to the upside here, definitely, but it's been losing bullish momentum. It's stuck in this ascending wedge pattern, which is typically a bearish pattern that will break bearish. And I think that the bears are gaining strength again, and the bulls are losing some of their strength on the shorter term time frames. Now, out on the much longer term time frames, the next 2 months or so, I'm not totally bullish on. I'm a little more bearish on. For the next 6 months to the next 12 months, I'm very bullish on. But it starts getting harder to predict out there with technicals. You start having to look at market structure, market patterns, the repetition of market patterns, and fundamentals to get good technical analysis and good analysis going out towards the yearly time frames. But over the next couple of months, I think Bitcoin is going to be slightly more bearish. So with all that said, let's go ahead and talk about some slightly longer term things and try to determine where Bitcoin is going to be headed over the next couple of days on into the next couple of weeks, because that's really what we want to know here. If we understand that Bitcoin is more bearish at the moment, where does that leave Bitcoin moving, and how can we be prepared for it, and what are our price targets, for example? Well, what I expect Bitcoin to do here is that so long as Bitcoin, like I said, I want to make it very clear that there is a half decent chance that Bitcoin does come up here and make another rally. So if that happens, don't come back saying, Jeb, you didn't say that was going to happen. I did say that there's a decent chance that that happens. Assuming that that does not happen, and be careful because it might, assuming that that doesn't happen, Bitcoin is more than likely going to fall over here and it's going to come down and test this uptrend of support. And when it does that, that is going to be a critical moment. There are a lot of critical moments in markets where Bitcoin and other markets have the ability to determine what they're going to do for the distant future in one single instance. If Bitcoin breaks bearish out of here and moves to the downside, that is going to be the first scenario that we're going to be talking about. But if Bitcoin decides to bounce here, then we'll talk about that in a second as well. But let's go ahead and talk about what happens if Bitcoin breaks bearish here, because I'm not totally convinced that Bitcoin is going to be able to bounce bullish here, although it is possible. If Bitcoin does break bearish here, let's go ahead and talk about that. If it comes down here, it's probably going to break bearish. And one of the reasons I say it's going to break bearish is because ascending wedges like this tend to break bearish. On a statistical analysis level, they tend to break bearish. Likewise, if we look at our understanding of the strength of the bulls and the bears right now seem to be slightly stronger based on a lot of the fundamentals and, not the fundamentals, a lot of the oscillators and things that we haven't talked about so much in this video, but have talked about in previous videos. Also, the way that the market is moving in response to different breakouts, for example. It seems that the bears are gaining their strength, and we may be coming close to a tipping point. We may be coming close to a tipping point where the bulls start losing some of their strength and the bears start regaining some of it, where the bears are able to start pushing us downwards instead of us just having this really slow grind moving to the upside. With all that said, if Bitcoin starts breaking bearish here, what is interesting is that Bitcoin will have gotten resistance at this downtrend of resistance again. That's the very important longer-term downtrend of resistance that Bitcoin has been under for over a year now. That means that Bitcoin will have rejected off of that and will be headed to the downside. Now, that's not necessarily a terrible thing, but it is something we want to be aware of and that we want to be prepared for. But if Bitcoin starts moving to the downside, I'll go ahead and reiterate the levels of support that I mentioned in yesterday's video very quickly so that you guys know what they would be. One of the levels of support that I will be looking at is around $3,680 here on Coinbase. Bitcoin starts moving to the downside, I expect this is going to be one of the levels that we start heading towards. And one of the reasons I say that is because this level has been very important in Bitcoin technical analysis ever since December of last year. We have levels of support right here and here. Bitcoin got support right here after it started the rally to the upside. We had support right here after Bitcoin broke out. Resistance, resistance, support, 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 and a bit of resistance. Bitcoin has had a lot of trading around that price level, and it will be one that I am most certainly going to keep an eye out for. Let's go out to the 4-hourly so we can see this a little bit better. Bitcoin is definitely going to be looking at that as a level of support, and do expect that Bitcoin is going to be getting a lot of support in this area. There's a lot of price action going on over here, and there are a lot of people drawing different levels of support in this area. So this area right in here, there's going to be a lot of support in this region. It's not like Bitcoin's just going to fall through the floor and start crashing towards $3,000 or anything. It does have a lot of support below it, and I do mean a lot. So it's not like we're looking at anything catastrophic just yet. It could become that, but just yet I think we're doing okay. This is one of the levels of support that we'll be looking at for right here. Another one that I talked about also will be down here around $3,550 or so, for the similar reason that Bitcoin has traded around that quite a lot. We got a bunch of support around it right over here. We saw a lot of trading around it right over here, which is a way to build support by trading above and below a level quite a bit. You will see something like that form. Levels of support right in here, resistance right there, support in the zone right there, and resistance back over there. That's another level of support that I'll be looking out for. And these are the two most important levels of support that I'll be looking for. And honestly, I'm also looking at a major zone of support that I've been mentioning here in the last couple of minutes. Somewhere around like right here. In this area right here, I think Bitcoin will probably be caught. We'll see exactly where that comes up, whether it's on one of the support levels that I drew or in another level down here. There are some Fibonacci levels down here that I'm not going to be able to get to in today's video that Bitcoin may also get support at, so watch out for that. After that, though, if Bitcoin does manage to maintain the bearishness to keep moving down below that, that's where things start getting interesting, because there is a decent chance that Bitcoin breaks all of those and moves down here towards this uptrend of support. And you guys know I've talked about this a lot, so I will be brief. But if Bitcoin comes down here, test this uptrend of support, and if it breaks it, that's going to be bad for Bitcoin. And as I've talked about in many videos, probably over a dozen by now, if we come down there and break that, we're going to be breaking the 200 weekly moving average, and that will be catastrophic for longer term market structure. Watch my videos I've done on that by going to the channel. There are quite a lot of videos I've talked about with the scenario like that playing out. But overall, guys, there's something more important than that I'm looking at, and that would be that if Bitcoin breaks bearish here, it is going to be moving back below this moving average, the 20-weekly moving average. Bitcoin is currently sitting between the 20-weekly moving average, or is just barely above it, and the 200-weekly moving average. We're also sitting up below this downtrend of resistance and this uptrend of support right here. Let me go on a cleaner chart so you guys can see what I'm talking about here. We're seeing that Bitcoin is currently sitting between that downtrending moving average right there and a uptrend of support right about there. We're seeing that Bitcoin is currently sitting basically in a consolidation pattern. Now, I need to draw this a little more carefully. It's something like that. Bitcoin is sitting between this moving average and this moving average, and this downtrend of resistance and this uptrend of support. Bitcoin is basically moving into a very long-term consolidation pattern. It's being squeezed in, and we are seeing that Bitcoin is going to be building a lot of tension, as I talked about in yesterday's video, over the next couple of months. And eventually, we probably are going to see a major breakout. We're either going to see a bullish breakout, or like I've discussed in previous videos as well, it seems likely that we may be seeing a bearish breakout. Keep all that in mind, because as the days go by, we get closer and closer to that breakout. And as I see it coming, and as it seems to be getting closer, I will talk about it more. For right now, it seems a little ways off, though. Anyway, the last scenario would be that Bitcoin comes down here and tests this uptrend of support and bounces. And really, if Bitcoin comes down here and tests this uptrend of support and bounces, which is very possible, there is a bullish scenario. I'm not going to go into too much detail with it today because I don't think that it's going to happen. But if Bitcoin does come down here, test this uptrend of support and bounces, then it would be breaking this downtrending level of resistance, and it would be moving to the upside again more than likely. And that would be very good, and I'll show you guys why. Because if we come out to the daily chart, this downtrending level of resistance looks very similar to the downtrending level of resistance from 2015. Let's go ahead and redraw that here on the Bitfinex chart. I had to switch charts because we didn't have the Coinbase's chart doesn't go back as far as Bitfinex's that does, though. But interestingly enough, we see that Bitcoin is getting very close to breaking this downtrend of resistance. We probably, just about no matter what happens, we'll probably be breaking this in the next 2 months. When Bitcoin breaks this, it's going to be mirroring market structure from 2014 and 15, because in 2014 and 15, as with all the other parallels between these markets, there is another one, and it looks something like this. Bitcoin was under a downtrend of resistance back here as well. And around halfway through this accumulation phase, Bitcoin got through that downtrending level of resistance and continued moving sideways, and eventually went into a bull market. So this is another sign that an accumulation phase is in the works right now, and that the accumulation phase will probably be wrapping up in the next 6 to 12 months or so, if we continue following the same market structure that we did in 2014 and 15, which so far we have, and so far we have no reason to believe that trend will not continue. Anyway, guys, that is basically going to do it for today's video. Tell me what you think about that technical analysis and what you think Bitcoin will be doing here over the next couple of days. I've done so much short-term technical analysis over the last couple of videos that my chart looks like an absolute clown fiesta, so I'm going to be clearing some of that up by the time the next video rolls around. And in the next couple of videos, I think I'm going to zoom out and start doing a bit more longer-term technical analysis, because I think you guys understand what's going on in the short term, and there are some things on the longer terms that I want to talk about, and you guys do seem to greatly enjoy that. Anyway, guys, like I said, tell me in the comment section down below where you think Bitcoin is headed. I'm interested to hear your opinions in the comment section down below as always. I do love reading your comments. But that's going to do it for today's video, guys. I do want to thank each and every single one of you for watching as always, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.